Welcome to the Dental School Guide podcast, your ultimate destination for all things dentistry. I'm Dr. Tanner Townsend, your guide through the complex world of dental education. Join us as we uncover the secrets of acing dental school admissions, navigating residency programs, and exploring career opportunities. Please share and enjoy. Real quick, just wanted to make all you pre-dental students out there aware of a resource. If you've ever been worried about getting into dental school or are wanting to get into that school of your dreams, then you definitely want to check out a program called Dental School Guide. In the program, we walk you through how to save money, time, and heartache when applying to dental school. There's so much fluff out there when it comes to resources for getting into school, and we are streamlining all of that. With our comprehensive digital course, expert mentorship, and personalized application review services, you'll have everything you need to stand out to admission committees. Take advantage of this amazing resource that will help you increase your chances of getting into dental school. You'll want to check out dentalschoolguide.com. Check it out. Welcome back to the Dental School Guide podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tanner Townsend, and today we are here with Marisa from Roseman. She's a rising D4, and we are super excited to have her on the show. Marisa, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Just finished clinic and I'm ready for this.
Nice. Well, I hope you're ready for the weekend as well, as we're recording this on a Friday. But Marisa, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you end up at Roseman?
Yeah, so I'm originally from California, not the SoCal, but the NorCal part. I'm from around Folsom, El Dorado Hills area. I was originally from the Bay Area. I went to UC Davis, so I'm like born and raised in California. This is like my first time like far away from home, and I think it's like the perfect place to just grow and just start becoming independent. Was just like that's me. That's how dental school is to me. So yeah, I ended up here at Roseman after having done a post-bac at CSU East Bay in the Bay Area. And then I applied during like the COVID era. So that was kind of like weird navigating all that. But yeah, I ended up at Roseman after I think 3 interviews at other schools. And I just like fell in love with this place. I am actually kind of reluctant to leave. So I'm excited, but reluctant at the same time.
Okay, so yeah, you're kind of creeping up on the end of dental school here in about a year. What are your kind of tentative plans for the coming year after you graduate?
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate enough to have been an NHSC scholar. So I will be going to my NHSC service for 2 years. I have like a 2-year commitment, and I'll be doing that after dental school. I don't know where that takes me. I have yet to do on my to-do list is to start searching for sites and figure out what I want to do and where I want to practice. And then after that, I'm going into private practice. So with my mom. So hopefully that works out okay. I've been going back home a lot, so all the patients there know me, and so it'll be kind of fun to work with her in the future.
Well, that'll be awesome. That'll be really cool. And that scholarship, if you're okay with it, we'll kind of touch base on that
Mhm.
scholarship and how that process has been for you so far as a student. And then maybe you can come back sometime in the future once you've done some service and we can talk about what it's like working in one of
Yeah,
those sites, which would be
of
awesome.
course.
Well, Marisa, tell us a little bit more about your involvement at Roseman. We know that you're super involved at Roseman on ASDA, correct?
Yes, that's
Um,
correct.
tell Okay, so tell us a little for the students that don't know, because there's a lot of pre-dental students that listen to this show. What is ASDA first, and what is kind of your role in it and on your school's level?
Yeah. So ASDA stands for the American Student Dental Association. It's kind of like the American Dental Association, but for students. We do everything for like all dentists, right? So it's not just specifically for peds or specifically for ortho or specifically for oral surgery. We just do things and events and programming that benefit the entire dental community. And so that can include like health and wellness, that can include social aspects like social balls and like all the porcelain ball and all that fun stuff, all those fun events that we do. We also do a lot of stuff with advocacy. That's our main platform or our main like initiative, is just to give dentists one voice and be able to talk about all these different policies and fight for our patients, fight for how to give good quality care to our patients, and fight for the future of our career. So we do all sorts of different programming here at the school. I'm very fortunate that I'm at Roseman, where we have I'd like to say a lot of free time to be able to get involved in different extracurriculars, not only ASDA, but ADIA, PEDS Club, all these different significant groups on campus. So we're a very active community here at Roseman. For ASDA in particular, I'm very much very active in ASDA on both the chapter level and the district level. In the chapter level, it was my D1 year and I was pre-dental chair. So it was like one of the few positions offered to D1s. After that, I was VP and president in D2 and D3 year. And in D4 year, which is where I'm at right now, I'm now serving on the district level as social media chair, something simple yet still something that I can stay busy. So I've been working on all of that all through my 4 years I've been in ASDA, and it's been so great. I've been able to like meet so many new people, travel a lot, and really just like figure out what it means to be a leader in the dental field. And I'm hoping that I can take that with me to when I start practicing and leading a team in dental practice. So that's kind of like what ASDA does here at Roseman. We do as much as we can to make the student community as happy as possible. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So what are some of the trips that you get to go on? So AS is notorious for having a number of conferences at the district level and the national level and things like that. So what are some of those experiences that you've been able to have to meet other students from other schools?
Yeah, it's been so great. I feel like a lot of my really good friends now are from other dental schools, and I love hearing their different perspectives of their dental school, what works for their school, what doesn't work for their school, and it really centers me into like, wow, I'm very fortunate to be at this kind of school. So there are many conferences, and that's honestly was the most scariest thing because I never ever traveled before. I was very much like in my own bubble back in undergrad and post back. And now that I'm here in dental school in a different state, now I'm like traveling a lot. There was a time because as president, I was like kind of required to go to these conferences. There was a time I was kind of living on my suitcase because I had to travel every month. So some of the conferences would be National Leadership Conference, which is like the biggest of our conferences that happens in Chicago. Really just goes into how to be a leader, like those leadership traits, building on some of the new technologies that are in the dental field and so on. That happens in Chicago for a weekend in November this year. After that, there's kind of a bit of a lag until our district starts inviting us to their district conference, which happens in like any one of the 5 or 6 states that are in our district. And so that's kind of just smaller. It's definitely smaller. People send like a lot. It's like, it's only like maybe like 10, sorry, 8 or 10 schools. So it's kind of more smaller. Everyone's kind of close together. So we kind of have the same vibe compared to like other kids from across the nation. We're kind of all the West Coast schools. And then that's our district conference. As for lobby day that happens, that's to go to Washington D.C., and that's when we talk to our legislators about policies that we want to get done or get passed, and different problems that we have as students and what we are worried about in the future. We kind of share that with our state legislators at DC. And I believe there was one more, wasn't there? Oh, annual session. Annual session happens once a year. It's when we get 2 representatives per school across the nation, and we kind of do something similar to what we do in our own U.S. government, where we like vote on different policies that we want ASDA to support. For example, say that proposal for like mental health services should be put in every school, and all of us, 2 per school, attend this big meeting and we vote yay or nay on it. So yeah, we do a lot of those kinds of conferences, and I really felt that annual session helped solidify what I learned from leadership conference. So they kind of all get kind of connected. It's a great place to be able to network with my other like dental students, my other colleagues, and hopefully like maybe work with them in the future. So it's really great to make those kinds of connections with people that you don't even think that you would even like cross paths with. Like got like friends in Boston. I got friends over here now. And I'm just like, whoa, like I never thought that I'd be able to connect with people like that. I was like very much in my California bubble. And now coming here to Utah and going abroad towards ASDA, it's just been great.
Well, that is awesome. So thanks for kind of sharing a little bit about AS. I think a lot of our listeners haven't known what really as it involves. It's a phrase that's thrown around a lot as a pre-dental and as a dental student. You're like, okay, what the heck do they do? And so it's kind of nice to hear what you do as a representative. So thanks for sharing. Well,
Yeah.
let's kind of jump into a little bit about Roseman. And so Roseman is a school that is transitioning from being a 4-year program to a 3-year program. So there's a lot of things that are probably changing in that aspect slightly, but overall the culture is probably still the same. Tell us a little bit about those first couple years as a D1, D2, of what that kind of looks like at Roseman. I know that they're very team oriented, pass fail oriented, if I remember correctly. And tell us what that's like, and then what it's going to be like for the students doing the 3-year program.
Yeah, of course. So when I was a D1, D2, D3, D4, my class size was 100 students. Now I know that they're increasing the class size. So we're not necessarily in this building all the time or this room all the time. They're in the bigger room next door. Um, Legit next door. So what happens is that during our D1, D2 year, they're more heavy on the didactics. They really want us to get to know like why are we doing this procedure? What is the kind of like the logic behind, all this dental stuff that we're going to be seeing in the clinic? And so, yes, is Roseman is very team oriented. It's all about teams from like day one. They like start even from the interview. You're already broken into groups in an interview setting. Yeah, here they're very team oriented. It's all about helping each other and helping each other do better or be better. It's nothing about like trying to like stab other people in order to get the good grade. It's all very team oriented. So I'd like to mention that like D1 and D2 year more didactics with some clinical aspects scattered throughout the curriculum. Like some days we would have a class in the morning and then we'll be in clinic in the afternoon, or we'll have like sim clinic in the morning and then we'll be in clinic in the afternoon. So when I was a D1, they divided my class into four. So we have four quads, A, B, C, or D. They also divided us into colors, like red, yellow, blue, and green. And so they would kind of like make us rotate. So some of us would be in class, 25 of us would be in class, 50 of us would be in sim clinic, and then like 25 of us would be in the regular clinic. The 50 of us that are in the sim clinic, we're paired off to make 25 pairs, and then we do the projects together. So say it's like an 8 MF composite filling that needs to get done. One of the partners will do the project, get it checked, and then afterwards they'll switch, and then that partner that had just finished that filling will become their secondary assistant or secondary. So that's kind of how we go. We go through these didactic courses, sim clinic and clinic, just like we rotate through them. So that way, in didactic courses, we're learning the logic behind a dental procedure, and sim clinic, we're practicing it on the mannequin. And then in clinic, we're seeing it actually done on patients, if not performing the treatment itself. So that's kind of like how my D1 and D2 year kind of went. We're also very well known. I'd like to say that we're kind of known for our hexagon shaped classroom, which I am totally down to like bring you in so you guys can check it out. But it is really a hexagon classroom. If anything, it's more scary for the speaker because we surround them. But there's really no bad seat in the house since there's only 4 rows per side of the hexagon. So that's great. So it's really like brings us to like, I guess you cannot just doze off necessarily. And
There's no
also
place to hide.
there's no place to hide. Like you could be shopping on your laptop and then the professor could be right behind you. Like the professor is supposed to be able to walk around, or the speaker should be walking around. That's kind of how they get us. So very engaging classroom just from the design of it. And in addition, I forgot to mention this, we're also on a block schedule. I think that's very important for pre-dents to understand if they are more of a block schedule type or a non-block schedule type. Being on a block schedule means that you do one class at a time. You're not juggling 8 classes at the same time, and I think that does such wonders on our own time, on our well being. So it's been great just working on one class, like one restoration class for 2 or 4 weeks, doing all the sim clinic, doing all the clinicals, parts of it, and then doing all the didactic parts of it, and then after that, just kind of put it aside and move on to the next topic. it's really great being able to focus on really perfecting that one block. Which I guess also leads me to the whole 90% pass. I'm sure that was going to be like a question.
Yep.
um, so, like the 90% pass, I know it could be really daunting. I was always like the C plus student, B minus person back in like undergrad. And yeah, it was very daunting to be like, oh my gosh, I need a 90% in order to pass. Like, what the heck? Like, that's hard. Um, and I think a lot of our professors understand that and they try to make it more fun for us to learn the topic and just focus on learning rather than just trying to pass the class. When I say that we have a 90% pass, that means when you take your test, which is basically the only thing that's in there for your grade for that class, we take an individual test and a group test. I think that's very unique to Roseman. So it's all about, teamwork. So we take that test on our computer. It's like a 60 question test or something like that. We have to pass that test at a 90%. So we take it individually first. And then afterwards, we go into our teams or our groups. And then we take that same exact test, except with 5 other people on it. And we take the test together. We have to score like a 95% on that test. And if we do score 95% on that group test, we get 5% added to our individual score. So essentially, you could get like an 85% on your individual, score really well on your group exam, and then pass the class with your 90%. Or you can like ace your individual exam and get 105%. Like that's kind of how it works. And then say if you do not pass the class or you don't get that 90%, you're like at 88% or whatever, which tends to happen. Usually it's either people like pass or they like barely not pass. Because we're a pass, no pass school, you essentially get a no pass if you got like an 88% or something like that. And that's when you go into ALO, which is an additional learning opportunity. That's when you go and do a one-on-one like session with other people that also didn't or got a no pass. You do like a one-on-one session with the professor. You guys talk about like what you didn't understand, some of the questions that were on the test, like why was that correct and why was that wrong. You go over that, you start mastering that material, and then you re-encounter that on Monday to take a different exam with different questions, and you're on your own. It's an individual test only, and hopefully you pass then. If not, there's other rabbit holes and stuff that you need to go through in order to pass the course. But usually after getting through the additional learning opportunity or the ALO, you're set up for success and you're able to encounter those different questions, but be able to succeed in answering them. So that's kind of how my D1 and D2 year went with didactics. And that's kind of how the didactics kind of work here at Roseman. Sorry, it was
That's
a long and windy answer,
No,
but
that was very good. It was a long question with multiple parts to it. So when you take a class, it's only a single class at a time, correct? Which is kind
yes.
of neat. That
hmm
that is one of the unique aspects of Roseman, which I think kind of sets it apart in that aspect. So in terms of other things that you're able to do at Roseman, you said that even in your first month of school, you're in the clinic as a D1, either assisting or helping out. What are some of those things that you got to do in your D1 year and your D2 year in clinic?
Yeah. So first off, you want to dip your feet in. A lot of our students, a lot of them were hygienists or dental assistants before lab techs. So they had a lot more experience coming in, but we all come in at the same level and they all get us on, suction duty for a little bit. We're setting up the ops. We're learning the whole clinic aspect as well as learning Axiom, which is the program that we use to see our patients, to chart and do all the EMR stuff. We have to learn Axiom, which is a big learning curve. It's like one day you don't know anything and you can't remember how to do this, and then the next day you sleep, and then the next day now you know how to complete codes and all that. We're learning all those aspects, and then what we can provide as providers. We're learning from our mentors who are our upperclassmen. So, like I said, we work in teams within our class, but as well as within all of the classes. So my class has a team six, woohoo, team six, of like 8 students. And the classes before us, our upperclassmen at the time, they also had a team six. And so we work with the same people in our clinic team whenever we're in clinic, and we see the same patients. So it's almost like we're running our own clinic with our own patient pool. In our own space. So we have our same colleagues, we have our same patients, and we're seeing them. Um, so that's kind of like how clinic kind of works. During our first year, we're mainly on suction duty, but towards the middle of the year, they really want us to start learning how to do just the basic procedures like deep cleanings and exams and being able to diagnose. So I think halfway through my D1 year, I was already doing some periodic exams, some cleanings, and then I believe we already towards like near the like 75% into my D1 year, we are already working on anesthetic and anesthetizing each other or our patients to do those procedures. And I know a few of our D1s have also done fillings, like they do just like occlusals or sealants. We try to work them into getting used to being the primary provider so that way they are able to teach their underclassmen in the future. So I think it's like, yes, we're very team oriented in clinic as well. And we also really utilize our mentors or our upperclassmen to teach us how to do some of the things that can't be taught in like a didactic setting or just in sim clinic. Like being able to talk to the patient and seeing my mentors talk to their patients have been like, oh wow, so that's how you present a treatment plan. Oh, that's how you say that in Spanish. So all that, that's kind of like how our clinic has kind of worked through our D1 year.
Wow, that's awesome. So as you move into clinic, let's kind of move into the clinic side of things here. As you go there more heavily as a D3, what does that look like? And what is it going to look like for the students that are going to be doing that 3-year program coming up?
Mhm. So as a D3, I believe we start trusting. I guess you get start getting trusted with more procedures. You're able to do the deep cleans like pretty proficient enough. And then now you're doing more like class 2 fillings and some occlusals here and there and some anterior fillings. The crowns and the root canals were always kind of like reserved for our D4s. So right now in my D4 year, we're doing crowns and a lot of crowns, some implant experience, and then root canals. That's like that's going to go to a D4 upperclassman. As for like the 3-year program, I believe that's when everything gets kind of shifted. So as a D3, you'll be expected to be the top dog. You'll be the one doing the crowns. You'll be doing the root canals. And there's also a lot of opportunities for externships. They have started some externship opportunities to work for a month in AGD in the Las Vegas AGD, I believe. Um, Also, they have externships to get you out into the local clinics outside that help people that are homeless or like other local clinics here in Salt Lake City. So then you can do some practicing there in an outside clinic, not just here at the school. They've also done what was it called? The DSO opportunities. So DSOs are offering us an opportunity to work for them for a whole month in whatever state that they have the site at. So I have friends in Wisconsin right now working. I have people in Las Vegas working just for the whole month, and they get to experience what it feels like to work at a DSO, as well as challenge them to like work a little faster and get into the pace of what real life work is. So there's opportunities like that. So that frees up, I guess, the procedures and treatments for our underclassmen to also get started on doing class 2s or more complicated procedures. So that's kind of like what I think that the 3-year program is going to get into now that the D3s right now will get those kinds of experiences. They'll be out of the clinic, and the D1s and D2s will be able to work here in our dental clinic with be able to get those procedures faster than if they had done it in the 4-year program, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally does. So that's really cool. The DSO experience is something that's really quite unique to Roseman. So are those separate from those external rotations where you work in like a community clinic? And how many days are you allowed to be outside of the walls of the school?
Yeah. So they're all opportunity. We have like some students that want to stay local and they can't like they
Because they have
can't
families or something
move
like
out.
that.
They have families, yeah. So that's why they are more keen to like staying local and work in those like Salt Lake City clinic or in like the homeless clinic, homeless community clinic or what that serves that homeless community. So they're the same. They're kind of it's kind of like a work in progress right now, and I'm not too familiar with all the procedures of how often do we get those externships since they just started the DSO opportunities with my class. And I believe we've only had like maybe 10 or 15 people who have just finished their DSO opportunities since April. So I'm not too familiar with that, but I believe that we should all be able to have an opportunity to work at a DSO if we asked for it on our like preference sheet. If you specifically wanted to do the AHD, they'll put you there. One of the doctors is in charge of like being able to put us in whatever rotation we want to. So he's kind of working hard on that. But yeah, usually it's a 1 month rotation for the DSO, 1 month for AGD. And then for also the clinics, I think they're all just 1 month. We shouldn't, they don't really they don't allow us to take any time off. So you want to utilize that entire month, 5 days a week, working for those particular DSOs or working in the clinic or working in AGD. That's kind of just like their requirement that you just can't miss any clinic because it's an opportunity that's hard to come by. But yeah, those are some of the external rotations that we have. And essentially, there's enough space for, I believe they were saying like 120, 140 or so students to be able to go out and see DSOs and what. So some people might go on one rotation, some people might go into two. It just depends on how well we're doing here because I know that Roseman doesn't want to send, an unprepared practitioner out there to work in a DSO where it's more fast paced. They want to make sure that we're at a good level, that when we go out there, we won't be like bringing anyone down or like be confused or whatever. So a lot of us haven't done a DSO opportunities just yet. So I've heard that like post November, post December, it'll start having more sites available to us, and then we can start working there.
Well,
But I
that's
heard
a
it's very fast paced, and it depends on which DSO you're with. If you're like with a particular DSO or that DSO, it kind of depends on how the workload is and how the clinic kind of works.
well, that's a really neat experience that you guys are able to get. That's something that I think I would definitely want to take advantage of. So that is really cool that they're even offering that to you guys. Um, how is that program going to work, or your guys' school going to work? Because you guys are going to have a site in Salt Lake still, but then you're going to have an option to go to Las Vegas for some students once this
Yes.
new incoming class. What do you know
Yeah.
about that, and what is that going to look like from what you've heard?
Yeah, so they're called like cohorts. I believe there's 100 in the Utah cohort, and then there are 40 in the Las Vegas cohort. So I heard that they have to stay here for their didactics, more their didactics kind of clinic, their first D1 and half of D2 year, and then midway through, they will move to Vegas and they'll primarily work in the clinic. Um, Honestly, it sounds kind of confusing to me, and they haven't really told us too much about it. But it's a great opportunity to be able to serve the Las Vegas population. I heard that it's a population that there is a need for dental services, and we also have our Henderson campus there as well for like I believe ortho residency. So I'm my like deduction of it is that like maybe all those ortho patients they need someplace to see a primary care or primary dental care practitioner or whatever. So that's why they would love to have students out there practicing to serve their patients in their ortho program. So um, yeah, I'm not too sure about how that will look like. It's kind of weird because I see this group of like all these D1s and I'm like, wow, they're so united. And then I realize 40 of them gotta leave the island, you know? It's like it's weird. I was like, oh, wait, we're doing this? Yeah, class of 2028, 40 of them are gonna be in Las Vegas. And I believe then they come back for graduation. They reunite for a little bit. It's a
Oh,
little
that's funny.
confusing, and it's also going to be kind of confusing when it comes to how we're going to structure our extracurriculars, specifically like ASDA or IDEA. Like, how are we going to, like, what happens if our president is in Las Vegas, but we can't, most of the events that are happening are here in Utah? Like, how is that going to work? So it's going to be a learning process. And I think Roseman will have to just have growing pains along with it. It is only the second 3 year program in the country, and then also having to shoot up this this cohort also. to also bring up this cohort. There's going to be a lot of changes, but I believe as long as we're like open to change, open to like feedback, which Roseman is very open to feedback, I think it'll be okay. It's just going to be some growing pains for a little bit.
That's really interesting. It'll be really interesting, like you said, to see how they handle the extracurricular things or
Yeah.
class presidency. So I guess TBD on that of what it's going to look like.
Yeah, TBD. We're not too sure. We're gonna hope that everything goes well with that.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit. We've kind of talked about Roseman as a whole. Tell us, as we're kind of transitioning into discussing what the extracurricular and outside of school life looks like. Tell us what that school and work life balance kind of looks like for a student at Roseman.
I think compared to my other colleagues in other schools, we have a great work, school slash life balance. It's been nice just being like, oh, I'm working an 8 to 5, and essentially I should be done by like 4:30 or 5 p.m. I get like a 1 hour lunch break. Sometimes if my patient ends early, I get like a 2 hour lunch break. It's nice, especially for our students that have families. I have like friends who like have 5 kids and they're still able to manage being a parent as well as, being a dental student, taking care of themselves. And it's also very great for people like me that don't have families to be able to focus on myself, focus on like exercising, focus on like, traveling or learning new things and all these hobbies and what. And obviously, it's spending my time into ASDA. That's been great. So yeah, there's been great. It's a great balance between working, being a student, and then still having a family life. It's definitely doable, especially since we are on a block curriculum. You're only taking one class at a time. You just got to focus on that one class, and then you can put it away for a little bit. And I think that's just the beauty of like going to a block scheduled kind of school. But yeah, it's great because here, yeah, we have a very diverse student community. We have a lot of people from California, honestly, but then we also have a lot of local Utahns here too. And yeah, it's very doable to be able to raise a family. I see it from my own friends and my own classmates. Some of my friends are pregnant right now, and they're still able to handle being in school or having a new kid. Sometimes I just heard the news like when I was at lunch, like one of our classmates has been pregnant, and I was like, I didn't know, like what the heck, and she's doing okay. All of our professors, all of our teachers are so supportive. None of them are there to like fail us or hold us back. They all just really want us to learn how to do that root canal or how to do a crown. Like nobody wants like anyone to like not pass dental school, and that's what I love it about here. Like everyone's really supportive. And when, say, some kind of family thing happens, whether it's a new baby in the family or like some medical condition, the school is very understanding. You just got to let them know. They have an open door policy to meet their faculty. We see them all the time, and they're just so open to like hearing from us students, learning about us, and open to our feedback and how they're very much willing to help us whenever we need it. And that's, I think, is something that we really need in this career. Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is. And being able to have people, like you said, to be a sounding board, to have be in your corner, which is really important. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about where you guys live. So let's say we're a brand new D1 at Roseman. Where are the majority of the students living? And are the students all kind of living in the same general area, or are you guys all kind of spread out?
Yeah. So, I'd like to say that a lot of us Californians who don't understand what snow is live kind of close by. I live legit like a right from school, so it's like less than a mile away, which is perfect when I just want to escape this building and just go and eat lunch on my own couch or take a nap or something. But a lot of our students live fairly close by to school, maybe about like a mile or two. As you get older you become more of an upperclassman, I feel like people start branching out to live in a city or kind of further away. So that way their partner or significant other has something to do too. Because a lot of our friends here do have significant others or they have families. Most of our Utah friends, they obviously are already local. So they already have their home here. They already have their family and their kids going to a specific school. So they do make the drive like 30 or 40 minutes or so.
Mm.
But coming from California, that's like nothing. But now that I'm like here and driving home is legit like 5 minutes away. Oh, it's such a fortunate thing. I'm just like, oh my gosh. I can't imagine living far. And then also being able to just park right here at the school. I don't have to. I went to UC Davis, so that was a big campus. I had to like walk like miles to get to class or bike to get to the school. Being able to just park right outside of my school and like walk a few steps into the door has been like awesome. And I think that's something I've always taken for granted nowadays, but it's just so different from back in California. But yeah, a lot of us live close by because of snow. Um, but there, it doesn't really snow as much as I thought. I'm actually doing just fine. My little sedan is still is still going, and I haven't had any problems. And what's great is that um, my class and we all have very similar schedules. So if I have to go home, I have like at least 10 friends to call to just drop me off since I live very close by. Like it's not bad at all. And yeah, those kids are the ones that have like the truck. And I'm like, yes, let me into the truck because my little sedan does not want to go up that little hill of snow. But yeah, lots of us live close by, and it's been great. And it's also great. I guess we can move on to this. Is like there's a bunch of stores, and everything's so close in proximity. I also think there's a very diverse like food community here because as we know, like the missionaries of the LDS church, they all travel, and they travel out of this state, out of the country, and sometimes they are craving food from where they had their mission. Is so like there is a lot of different kinds of foods here for everyone to satisfy their cravings. I feel like I had like a lot of friends also from California come up, and they're like, wow, like you guys have a lot of Asian food. And I was like, yeah, we have a lot of different types of foods that I find it hard to find in my own hometown sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great. A lot of our students live close by. Some of our students live like 30 minutes away, maybe 40. But I've never had a problem getting to school because of snow or what. If anything, maybe I'll just takes me maybe like 15 minutes instead of 5. I don't know, but it's been great. I don't really mind the snow as much.
Yeah, when you get to the snow, you're like, "Oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be."
Yeah, you just gotta take it slow, break early, watch the other people run the yellow light. You don't run the yellow light, you know?
Yeah. We moved to Montana a little over a year ago, and I was really worried about the cold and the snow, and it wasn't as bad as I thought, which was really nice. So, well, that's great. In terms of things to do, what are some things that students at Roseman really like to do, either together or individually, that are just kind of fun outside of the walls of the school?
Yeah. So we have the mountains. If only I had a better room right now, but I would show you guys the mountains. I could always run upstairs or what, but they are legit like 20 minutes away. People who love snow, they will enjoy Utah. Like snow sports and everything. We're recently just got the Olympics to come back. So that's gonna be great. But yeah, there's a lot of skiing, snowboarding, cross country skiing. It's all legit 20 minutes away. I know in other states or other places, they're like they have to travel like an hour to get up to a ski resort. Like I legit have to just travel down the street and it's there. And that's amazing. So people who love snow and love doing the snow sports, or if they just love to go tubing, that's something easy to do that you don't have to fall too much. It's all right there. Park City is about maybe less than an hour away, and so you can definitely hang out in that downtown area and check out some of the Olympic stuff going on there. Also, other things that we love to do is like hiking. Fall is really beautiful here in Utah. The mountain turns red. It's beautiful. There's a lot of waterfalls. So all of us are always hiking up waterfalls or finding a nice like short and easy hike to do after clinic or something. Um, Otherwise, they're just like a little drive away. And then some of my friends also like to take the weekend off or maybe take Friday off and then go to the national parks. Being a D4, I forgot to say this, but I haven't been to the national parks yet. So I am planning a
Oh, you
trip
need
like
to go.
ASAP. Yeah, before I graduate. I go in like 2 weeks or so. So we'll start at the Arches. We have Zion, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, all those wonderful, yeah, Bryce Canyon, Zion, all of those wonderful national parks are only like 3 to 5, 6 hours away, which is not bad, especially if you grab like a whole bunch of friends and then take a quick class trip out there. Otherwise, we also have Bear Lake. which is up north. And so we've done retreats for ASDA there at Bear Lake. It's about like 3 hours away to see like a big lake. Um, and then if not, there's Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons. I've been there several times instead. That's only 6 hours away as well. So there's so much stuff to do besides just outside of like Salt Lake City. But in the city, there's also like random festivals. Like sometimes we just stumble across like a random international food festival. We're like, okay, like let's go. I for one have like I'm like one of those that really likes to plan things with a bunch of friends. So we've done like a lot of different events for like in the winter we'll all go snow tubing or we'll all do like pottery or we'll all go make candles. We're always trying to find something fun to do. And I think Salt Lake City is like up and coming. There's like a lot of like foodie places coming up. People actually stop by for concerts nowadays. Like it's great and it's a wonderful city to be like, wow, you can park wherever you like. It's not like San Francisco or like Chicago where you only rely on public transportation. So it's a perfect like little city. Like say if you really want that city life, you can definitely just drive 20 minutes and you'll be there. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like what we do. Hiking, a lot of naturey stuff. So if you like being active, this is the place to be. Yeah.
That is awesome. All right. Well, as we kind of wrap up with these last couple final questions, let's talk a little bit since it's kind of interview season and application season for a lot of pre-dental students. Pre-dental students are finishing up getting their applications submitted and interviews are being sent out. What was your interview experience like at Roseman? Walk us through what the day was like and what students can kind of expect if they get an interview invite from Roseman.
Yeah. So I got my Roseman interview invite post December. So don't fret if you don't get one like right or you don't get one pre December. Don't fret because I feel like half of my class was in the post December interview. Um, First off, disclaimer, I was during the COVID era. So yeah, that
It's a little
experience was
different.
me logging in. I was like logging into a Zoom meeting, but I also work with some of the interviews here at Roseman. All of our students are involved some way, some form, whether it be an interviewee or sorry, interviewer, or helping out with like any of the student panels and what. So like a day kind of goes about like I believe you start in the morning. It's kind of like a half day kind of thing. You start out with like a big classroom in our hexagon shaped classroom. You get to see it live. And everyone's all dressed to the dimes, right? And then they go over like a presentation just to introduce the school. Some of our deans talk and like discuss about the school, what makes us a great fit for you, and what makes you a great fit for us. If you like working in teams, this is the place to be. If you can't handle being around too many people and like working across differences, probably try a different school. But yeah, kind of go over like the curriculum and what's going to be expected out of our students. That's kind of like all the lectures that you kind of go through. And then we start doing the interview. So the interview process, I believe how many interviews do we do? I'm trying to remember my schedule here, but I believe we like bring maybe a fifth of the applicants who are here present in our room. We bring a fifth of them up and then they get seen by one of our faculty and then two students, upperclassmen students, ask a few questions, get to know the student, and then you're done. Then you get to go downstairs and you get to hear the student panel, ask any questions to our students, and really get to know like why is this going to be a good fit for you and why we will be a good and why you will be a good fit for us, and making sure that really just clicks. Um, I wouldn't be too nervous. I remember when I hopped into my interview, I was so nervous. I just kept talking. They asked me, "How are you?" And I was like, blah, 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 blah. I did this, I did that, I did this. And they're like, calm down. We only got 15 minutes. Let's make the best of it. I was like, okay, that's fine. I will. I'll just shut up now. But they're really just trying to get to know you. They want to make sure that you're a human, that what you have on your paper and your application is, lining up with who you are, like off the paper. Biggest tip I like to say for interviews is read over what you sent to the school, read over your application, read over your extracurriculars. You do a lot to get to where you are, and you need to just review what you have done. So that way, when they ask you a question off of like what does pre-dental society, what did you do at this pre-dental society? You're able to like, oh yeah, I remember reading that like last night. Yeah, I did this XYZ. So after you're done with your interview, you walk back down, you re-encounter your other applicants, and then you're free to leave. I believe you also get lunch, so you got lunch. But besides that, yeah, it's a pretty quick interview, kind of like interview day. I believe it lasts until around 2 p.m. Um, so it's like a maybe 8 to 9 a.m. thing to 2 p.m., depending on if you're in the first batch that gets their interview or the fifth batch. Um, I know that they're trying to like make it kind of like an all day thing so that way we can interview more students at a time rather than just because when we interview students we basically have to close our clinic and close the
Yeah.
school, so they're trying to make it so that way we can just do two um, interview kind of like interview sessions, like one in the morning and one in the afternoon, so that way we can minimize the amount of times that our schools close. But yeah, that's kind of how it goes. It's really a laid back, it's a group interview setting, right? Like we have two students and one faculty just talking to you. Just take it easy, be yourself, really, and then it'll really shine through if this is the place where you want to be. Yeah.
So, you having been on the interview side, being the interviewer, what does that typically look like after the students walk out the room? Do you guys sit there and chat for a few minutes, or do you guys kind of chat all together at the end of the day? How does that work?
Yeah, I believe that we just because I was never really an interviewer, I was always like the student
Gotcha.
ambassador that was always like, "Hi, let me tell
Let
you
me
about
answer
this
your
and tell you
questions and
about
show
that."
you around.
Yeah, and show you around. But what I've heard from my other friends who be have been interviewers, I believe there's just like a scoring sheet or something, and then they just discuss the results through like their little group setting, faculty and the students, and it's like yay or nay kind of vibe. And then yeah, and then the faculty takes that into account and then submits that to whoever they need to their higher ups. So yeah, it's just really just trying to see, are these people a good fit? Any red
Yeah.
flags? Just note that, and then yeah, I believe our faculty who we're paired up with for the interviewing faculty, they'll take into account what we want to say about each student, and then we don't know what happens after that. Nor does our faculty. They just submit the
They just
papers
submit
and
it
it
and then
goes
it's
somewhere,
off and it
and it's
disappears.
off.
Well, that is so funny. It's really interesting to hear the interview process for every school because it's so different. And some schools are just similar to that where it's like it goes back to admissions and it's never heard from again. And then others,
Exactly.
there's like PowerPoint slides on each student and
Oh my
like
gosh.
fights over if students get in or if not amongst faculty. It's really interesting. So um, that's why we just love to ask that because it's different from school to school.
Yeah,
So,
mhm, and then when they also, like, let you know that, like, you got accepted, I remember I got a call,
uh-huh.
I think Dr. Harmon went ahead and just called my phone and was like, "Hey, you got in," and they do that to everybody, and
Yeah.
it's, like, amazing because we all we come here on our first day, and then we're like, "What were you doing when you got the call? What were you doing when you got the call?" And we all have these weird stories and what, and we're like, "Oh my gosh," and, like, the whole like the faculty that interviewed me was on the call. They were like, "Hey," and then it was like a very like nice and warm touch to really like welcome me into the family, into the Roseman family. So it's really fun. I really do think, like I said, our faculty here are great, our students here are great, and all of them just really want to support each other, support their future colleagues, and just make this profession so much better than it was like 50 years ago. So.
Yeah. Well, any final pieces of advice that you have for students that are applying to Roseman or applying to dental school in general that you have, Marissa?
Hmm. This every time I get that question, it brings me back to when I was pre-dental chair and I would always do these little
Yeah,
like
this
presentations to schools. Um, I think just what's a good piece of advice to leave? Ugh,
it's such a
I
generic question. I know it's a terrible
it
question
is.
to kind of end on, but yeah, give it your best go and let's see what you got.
Yeah, let's see. Otherwise, you can cut it. um, But yeah, just be patient with the process and be patient with yourself. I think it's important to know that you've come so far to get to this point that you have decided to apply to dental school. You have decided that this is the career for you. This is something that you want to do for 10, 20, 50 years down the road, and this is who you really see yourself being. And I think it's important to look back on that and really think, wow, you did that, you decided that, you're doing your application, you're getting your transcripts, you're getting your letters of rec, you're organizing all this, yet still trying to be a human being and taking care of yourself. I think it's very important to just like look at that, be patient with yourself, be patient with the process, because it's such a long process. And we have to think about these schools, and they're all just trying to figure out, if this student's going to be a good fit to their school, and if they're going to be a good fit, or this career, this school is going to be a good fit for them. And they're really just trying to figure that out. It's like a weird game of just trying to figure that out. And I think it's very important to just be patient with yourself, as well as be patient with the whole process. Whether it takes you one time to get through to get to dental school, it takes you 3 times, it takes you a post back, it takes you extra ways and extra like loop arounds. If this is something that you really find your heart set on, it will happen. And so just trust the process, be patient with yourself. You got this.
Awesome. Well, Marisa, thank you once again for coming on the show. And that is it for today's episode of the Dental School Guide podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
That's all for today's episode of the Dental School Guide podcast. We hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey into dentistry. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more expert advice, inside tips, and engaging discussions. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. It would mean the world to us. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and remember, your dental dreams are closer than you think. Thanks for tuning in to the Dental School Guide podcast.